Hey, so welcome to our little Zoom gathering, our
Emma.
little podcast.
Thank you.
So just to the listener, just a little preempt to let you know that I am in a public space, so you might hear a little bit of background noise, but it'll be mostly Kerry's voice that we'll be hearing anyway. So I would love to actually introduce you all to Kerry. And I always love to introduce people, but then I find that I go off on a tangent and introduce them as to how I see them. So I'm actually going to go straight in, Kerry, and ask if you could introduce yourself to the people listening.
Okay, thank you. So hi everybody. I'm Kerry McKay and I live on the West Coast near Loch Lomond, and I help people to get back to balance. So I especially work with women, and it's all about aligning with the seasons, aligning with what's going on in nature around us, and aligning with what's inside. So I coach and I teach yoga and I guide nature experiences. And it's really a very intuitive, empathic, creative process of getting to know who you are and what you need to stay in balance.
Amazing. And I love that word balance just
Mm.
keeps coming up for me at the moment, like time and time again, that I just feel like we're being pushed so far off balance that even if we can only do like 5 minutes of yoga or 1 minute of like a standing posture, even that just starts to get us into some balance. But there's so much. We could go from like the ecosystem to I don't normally mention politics, but to politics,
Yeah.
to equality, to our health, to our food. There's so much that's off balance. So I really appreciate hearing you say that, that was the one word that came up for me, and also an empath as well. So I'm gonna dig deeper into that at some point, how you manage being an empath in a world like this.
Such a big topic. And yes, like there's so much that's throwing us off balance, which is what you said at the start, and I couldn't agree more. And I've been a yoga teacher for quite a long time. Before that, I was a complementary therapist, and I've been coaching for about 5 years. And it's I see the change. I see the change in what people, how scattered people are, how busy people are, how stressed, and just how difficult it is to carve out any time for stillness or for self-care. And it's definitely changing. I can see it changing, and I'm even more passionate about doing what we can, so letting it be integrated with the realities of our life. But it's so important.
And what would you say? I know we've got some specific questions, so don't let me go too far off topic, but what would you say balance means to you?
Well, I'm all my work is rooted in Ayurveda, so which is the Indian tradition of health and a way of life, essentially. And I'm always thinking about where I might be out of balance in terms of what we call the doshas, which is Vata, Pitta, Kapha, which is sort of 3 qualities of energy. Make it very simple. And so being in balance to me means checking in with myself and being aware of what's shifted, looking for those subtle signs. And usually I think of it in terms of, okay, is it Vata that's gone out of balance, or Pitta or Kapha? So Vata is the quality of air, Pitta is the quality of fire, Kapha, earth and water. So you get to know your own subtle signs. Like I had a tiny bit of a rattle in my chest yesterday, and that's an alarm bell for me, like I'm doing too much, so just need to take a couple of quieter days. Or if my thinking is if my mind's getting really scattered, I can't focus, that's another sign. People often like check their tongue in the mirror. The tongue tells you a lot, or your skin, your menstrual cycle. So it's being aware of the signs and then knowing how to bring them back into balance. So taking action early. And so it's this continual kind of pendulum of, we're always going to swing one way or the other. That's natural and normal. It's the cycles of life. It's being human. But it's catching that swing and not letting it go too far, because the further it goes, the harder it is. And also it's about aligning with who you actually are. So the things that are continually in a way being in touch with your body and your soul, so that you are making decisions based on who you actually are. And that sort of process takes time to get that connection, but it's not complicated. Once you have that connection with yourself, you're just checking in. It's like, is this really me? Does this align with my values? And it can be very intuitive and doesn't have to be, you know, a specific thinking process. That's quite a long answer to your question.
No, I love it, because there's a few strands in there. Firstly, I love how you mention the Vata Pitta Kapha. So I love that, because it gives me something to work with. Like if I was like, how do I bring myself back? How do I know? It gives me like these kind of parameters. And then what I also appreciate you saying is about knowing yourself. Because Marina, who is going to be coming along on the retreat as well, she does Akashic records, and these are very much about looking kind of at your soul, looking at yourself at soul level and looking at who you are. So I love that we've got this kind of soul level intuitive guiding, and then this sense of Ayurveda, this sense of listening as well. And I appreciate about how you say about knowing yourself, because for me as a yoga teacher or as a retreat facilitator, so many people come on a retreat and walk away and they're like, oh wow, I forgot about that about myself, or I've rediscovered something about myself, or I've discovered something about myself. And you know, a retreat, sometimes people just come and have a lovely holiday. More often than not, they'll go away with a decision that they've made, or a choice that they're going to look at, or a reflection of something. So I appreciate you saying that we can do that on every day, though. As much as I love retreats, we don't always have to have 2 weeks in Bali, right? As nice as it is, you know, if we can be in that, Ayurveda is about being in that practice every day, isn't it?
Every day. And one thing that really helps is ritualizing it, because otherwise it just gets lost in the busyness of life. So, you know, for example, I do a painting or a piece of art every winter solstice and every summer solstice. And it's just been my rhythm for a long time, and it's just tapping into what's inside. It's very like, you know, intuitive. And that's like a twice yearly check-in. But you could be doing a daily check-in of pausing for 5 breaths as soon as you wake up, or doodling in a journal, or writing in a journal before you go to sleep. So I really think ritualizing, and it makes you feel like you're doing something cool and constructive, even if it's just lighting a candle while you eat your breakfast. That's big. Yeah.
We worked on this over the weekend. I ran a wellness weekend, and we talked all about light and dark and creating rituals, especially in the winter time, to make sure our environment was cozy. But of course, I never really thought of like lighting a candle with breakfast or something like that, but creating that sense of ritual that goes beyond, you know, our ritual of a bowl of cereal or whatever it is that people eat. You know, it's like making it more of a, or like you say, a ritual, or more of like a process where we're pausing and being with that moment. So much of what we do in the world is fast,
and
you know.
it has to have a purpose. So do something that in a way has no purpose, except obviously it really does. But one of my rituals is every morning I splash cold water on my eyes. And I could just do that on its own, but I do it 7 times one for each chakra, and I say the Sanskrit words for the chakras as I do it. And so I've added on layers. I never planned to have this as a ritual. It just started, and it takes like 10 seconds.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
making that time, isn't it? Whether it's 10 seconds to splash water on your eyes, or whether it's taking a weekend away to do a retreat, it's like investing, it's like being in action to do it. And I thought of this when I drove home yesterday. I'd been in the gym, I'd had a gorgeous swim, and I drove home. It was sunny in Edinburgh, which the first time in a while. And I just thought, God, you know what? We're so lucky. We're so lucky to be here, to have this one shot at life. Like, how can I make this the most brilliant, best day? And I think building in rituals makes me appreciate the day a little more, because you're not just hooning through it hoping to get to the end and get into bed and be like, oh, I've made it through another day. It's like all those little steps.
Yeah, it's beautiful
To make it great.
At this time of year, we are more likely to see the sunrise and the sunset. So it's another gift. We can just acknowledge those moments.
Yeah. I mean, what a beautiful way to reframe it. Like, that is the first time I've ever heard it like that. All I hear, and probably the narrative I fed myself, is, oh, it's dark when I get up and it's dark when I leave work. I'm going to tell my husband what you just said when I see him tonight.
Yeah.
So we met through Ardok, the beautiful retreat. Well, it's not a retreat center, it's a
events venue.
Events venue. Thank you. Yes, in near Loch Lomond, overlooking Loch Lomond. And through Lindsay, the manager there, well, she's not the manager, the assistant manager, I think, but she's brilliant. And she is, we've managed to get together and collab. Well, you are kindly coming on the retreat in June to lead one of the afternoons. And I'd just love to ask you a little bit. Obviously, we don't want to give all our secrets away, but I'd just love to ask you a little bit about that side of your work, because when I've been mentioning it to people when they've asked about the retreat, I'm like, oh, we're going to go on a boat trip and this amazing lady's going to come along. I'm going to walk around a little bit.
And
So I'd love to hear a little bit more, if you have kind of an idea of what you would do on an event like that, or what draws you to work like that.
So I think of it as a sort of a wild wood well-being afternoon, and this is one of the most beautiful places in Scotland, let's be clear. You know, from the venue, the view up Loch Lomond of the islands and the water and the woods and the mountains is probably one of the best views in Scotland. And I've been everywhere in Scotland. And so it's an incredible location. And there's a lot there. You know, there's lots of oak woodland, there's islands, there's, you know, the Loch Lomond is a very big lake, essentially. And I found through being a yoga teacher that, you know, people often, you know, they go for walks, but they're not really connecting with what's around them in an embodied way. And the more we can actually be in our bodies and connect with where we are through our bodies, through our senses, the better it feels, and it becomes kind of more meaningful and more healing, essentially. And it's not complicated, but often it helps to have someone there to guide you, and especially if there's a group, because, you know, you could easily go for a nice walk in the woods and you just talk and it's fun, but there's something you know, missing in a way. So we're going to go on a boat, and these boats are so cute because they're quite low tech, and there's this sort of gentle kind of hum that sets the shift in your nervous system just from being on the boat. This sort of the low vibration of the boat, and so it's a really relaxing trip. And we're actually going to go, probably depending on the weather, right up to the northern tip of the loch, across to some woodland in Vesnaid that people rarely go to, and it's a RSPB reserve. and we'll stroll around, but there'll be moments of invitation to connect with your senses, with your breath, perhaps with a tree, with what you're seeing. My encouragement to be mindful, so some guided work, some time in silence, perhaps some mindful walking, and we can also get creative and play it by ear. We can make sound, we can do some movements, we can be on the beach, and this is going to be a beautiful day, of course. So there's chance to go in the water, or there's a waterfall that's very awesome to get wet in as well.
I'm going to see what the temperature is first.
I know. And there's a viewpoint that is just incredible. So yeah, it's really in a way about connecting with each other, having fun, but also that sort of meditative element. And so I'm familiar with the location, and I'll be guiding some of that.
And that's what I really appreciate about it, because bringing not only your talent and your skill, but also your knowledge and your insight, and also I love that word invitation that you use, because when another facilitator comes in, it can shift the intention of the event. And quite often, like if I'm leading a group, it might turn into a little bit of a jolly, and we have a laugh and we're chatting all the way around. And so it's very easy then, I've realized, when you're walking with a friend, to miss things.
Yeah. And the good thing about bringing me in is that you'll have lots of time to be in that jolly mode, but I can be the excuse in a way.
Quieten me down.
Oh, Kerry's here, let's drop in. And and that is kind of my vibe.
Yeah.
And also I think it's also worth saying, I love this place so deeply. Like, my relationship with nature is absolutely at the core of my life, and especially this area, this location. It's very magical, and I think some of that comes through to other people. I love being with people as they discover it, and sometimes it does help to like point out factual things as well, just like the context of what you're actually seeing.
Absolutely. And I have, and that's why I think I'm so drawn to this area, because I don't know it very well as well. Like, I've seen it and I'm like, I want to know more. It's like meeting someone for the first time, and then you're like, we've got to catch up again. Like, I can't, I need to see you and learn more about you. And all I've seen is, Ardok and the Loch, and I've been over to Dunoon for a weekend as well. I did my first Duke in the Loch, so went in for the first time, and I'm just so excited to bring people there. And it's so much more than a yoga, like it's called a yoga and well-being retreat, but it's like this sense of going in and getting super connected to the self, but also to this vast, huge, amazing landscape.
Yes, and and that is yoga.
Yeah.
So yoga isn't just about studios and yoga mats, and that's the trajectory for me personally, and also my work is to bring it out into the world, into everyday life, and into daily rhythms. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. And also, when you're at the venue, there's an amazing piece of shore that you can walk to from the venue as well, that a lot of people don't know about. It's one of the best nature reserves around, I would say. So that's within half an hour's walk.
Maybe if you're around one day, you can pop along and show us if you have any time beforehand.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked a little bit also about potentially you being on the retreat with your Ayurvedic work. So I know there is that potential as well, which I'm very excited about. I love Ayurveda. but I'm told all the time to do all these things. I'm like, I just need to get into a practice.
Yeah, and so that's really why I'm an Ayurvedic coach and not an Ayurvedic practitioner, in that I am supporting people to build in habits, rather than going away with a lot of knowledge and different herbs and things to take. That's not really what I do. It's more, what can you shift practically to bring yourself back to balance, and also just helping people to acknowledge where they're out of balance. So yeah, my holistic well-being coaching, I run a well-being group for women that's online. I have spaces in the spring for people to come and join that course. I also work one-to-one with people, and it's really about identifying what's out of balance and what shifts can bring it back. And so at the retreat, if we decide to offer individual sessions, it will be like mini coaching sessions with me. Probably best to come with one particular issue, because that makes it easier, and a sort of express version of, okay, how are you, what's out of balance, what do you want, and let's see if we can create some easy practical shifts that are going to help create that change.
Sometimes it's just one thing that needs to be done. It's just one thing that kind of gets that ball rolling and gets someone on that kind of way of changing their habits or building new habits, and then keeping them going. It has to be simple, doesn't it?
It has to be simple. And I guess, like, what I'll be hoping to offer there is like the clarity, the discernment around, okay, what is the one thing, and let's just do that and see what happens. Yeah.
And so if people wanted to find you before the retreat and find out about your work, how can they do that? Do you have stuff online? Are you in person?
Yeah, so I have a website, kerrymckay.com, KERRYMCKAY, kerrymckay.com. And you can book a free chat on there with me if you would like to just sort of check in with how you're in and out of balance. I have just launched a yoga Nidra circle, which is a relaxation practice once a month through the winter. And that is very strongly about seasonal alignment and using our connection with the earth to bring ourselves into deep rest, and to use the winter as a real gift. So that is actually still bookable if anybody hears this in the next few weeks and wants to join that. It's very low cost, and it's a guided relaxation essentially, but once a month through the winter. So I can give you the link for that. That's a good way to connect online. And if anyone listening is in the area, I have a deep rest yoga workshop in December, and a sound bath and yoga workshop in January. So that's all on my website as well, bookable now. So I think that's the main ways. I actually quite like LinkedIn, so I'll give you my links to my socials, and LinkedIn and Facebook. I am on Instagram, but I don't really use it that much.
Well, I need to get on LinkedIn a lot more, so maybe I'll make that as my one takeaway habit from today. What I'll do is I'll share all your links along with this podcast as well, so people can find a way to connect. I'm going to look at your December one. If I'm here, I'll come up. Do you know what date it is?
I think it's the 17th. So it's called Befriending Shadow. And it's a solstice themed rest based yoga workshop. And then the one early in January is called Breathe Your Dreams, and it's about the flame alighting, but just beginning to burn as the new year starts. And that's with a guest teacher, my good friend Sandy, playing the gongs. So it is always sold out, and it's always awesome. So either of those would be brilliant.
I would check them out.
And those events are in Helensburgh.
Okay, perfect. I think we will wrap it up there unless there's anything else you want to share.
No, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be part of your event. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to collaborating further with you. I feel like we have like a great rapport, and yeah, let's see what else comes from this connection.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kerry, thank you for your time. If you're listening to this, well, to the participants listening to this, I'll put everything in the notes, and hopefully you can join myself and Kerry on retreat at Ardoch in Loch Lomond on the 6th of June, and I'll put the link in the notes as well. So thank you,
Thank
Kerry.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
here. Thank you.